Good morning, everyone. I'm your tour guide to this Slush jungle tour. I'm very sorry, this might be a little bit rocky ride. So if you start to feel sudden nausea, please use the back door, the one which says exit, not the one which is with the 3 letters. We are talking about the 3-letter back door a little bit more down the road. So we are going to have a lot of slides. There's going to be a lot of text on the slides. I'm not going to be reading through the slides. So more information on the slides. My talk is a little bit covering things on more general level. We're going to first talk about how the infrastructure has been under attack. And this is a very interesting thing. We are going to talk a little bit about why, before Snowden, we already have a cryptocalypse. There are a couple of key technologies in the encryption and security called DLP and factoring. In general, those means that you put milk to your coffee. It's very easy to pour milk to your coffee, but it's very hard to get the milk out if there's too much. And there have been huge advances in how to get the milk out of the coffee. To be exact, in the first 6 months of this year, before Snowden, we found the advances in this area more than in the previous 25 years combined. So we already were worried about how the cryptography is going to be survive, how the security is going to survive, what needs to be done next, and then Snowden happened. So we are going to talk about what the revolutions from Snowden and revolutions from universities are going to mean to us, and then what we can do next. So let's first start to talk about the cornerstone of today's web security. Well, I call it lovingly snake oil, because it doesn't exactly do what it's meant to be doing and what's advertised to do. SSL is behind pretty much everything we do. It's the bad lock sign when you have a browser, it's the green thing, it's the VPNs, etc., etc. So we, based on the SSL and based on the certificates, believe that, okay, now we are talking about with the website we thought about talking with, and we have certain privacy in our communications. It's a certificate-based system where we delegate, and our computer delegates the trust to third party. So there's a third party which will tell to my computer, these people are trustworthy. And these third parties are unknown. Wait a minute. How that's possible? How we delegate the trust to parties we don't know who they are? A good friend of mine, Professor Matt Place from the University of Pennsylvania. He's the guy, by the way, back in the first time in the United States was offering and mandating by law a backdoor to all communication devices. That was called a Clipper chip. So it was based on a cryptographic algorithm which was not publicized called Skipjack. And Matt Place was the guy who actually proved that it's flawed and you can actually use this backdoor unauthorized way. So not only the governments can use it, but anyone can use it. He made an observation saying that the certificate authorities, who we delegate to tell us who are trustworthy, are going to protect us against anyone who is unwilling to take money. Well, even less than that. But it's a question of money. So let's talk about who is your daddy, who we trust. We don't actually know, and for that reason, EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, had a project called SSL Observatory. So we tried to figure out who we are trusting. And it turns out to be looking like that. Every single corner, every single box in this is an authority which our computer trusts. And this picture actually is when you have Windows 7 and you have just installed Windows 7 and Firefox. This is the result of who you are trusting. So let's have a little bit of a look who it would be. What? I'm trusting 1,500? What? This is the whole problem in this area. The numbers are enormous. There is no boundaries. So if we have a CA in Hong Kong and it wants to sign a certificate to my local bank, sure. If I want to check who my bank actually has commissioned to sign their certificate, I cannot find it. So it's very hard for me to verify, is the guy who is verifying that this is the right authority to be actually the people who my bank is trusting. Also, everybody is equal. The CA who is a very small CA is in equal power than a country. Interesting people are CAs. Department of Homeland Security, Ford, Marks and Spencer's. Booz Allen Hamilton, rings a bell. Oh yeah, Snowden, yes, that's his boss, his company. And there's weird places like an observatory in a mountaintop. Why the hell they need to be globally recognized CA, I don't know, but that is the case. So not only you have to trust, this is a barrel of apples, where one bad apple signing things is going to ruin everything, but also everybody has to take care of their security. And we have had incidents, DigiNotar, which was a Dutch CA, they got hacked. The first thing what happened was that with the DigiNotar hacked certificate, they signed a name certificates for CIA, Mossad, and whatnot. Because it doesn't matter where the CA is, there's no boundaries. Even worse, Commodore got hacked, and this is a problem because Commodore is actually signing currently in July this year 27% of all the secure websites in the world. So you cannot really turn them off. If you turn them off today, you lose 1/3 of the internet. So you have to trust them even when they have proven themselves they are not trustworthy and they cannot handle their own security. How bad it is, this actually is the actual slide from Guardian. This is the actual slide from Snowden. The whole topic of SSL security is a post-it note. That should tell you something about it. And by the way, Google here, you can replace Google with Yahoo, you can replace it with your own bank. Because this is the structure every large organization is using. This is not unique for Google at all. And the problem here is, the SSL is only on a public internet side. There's a gateway. If you take that gateway, everything is naked and in clear text in that gateway. Game over. Everything behind in a production network is unencrypted. And even if you add a second layer of encryption there, it doesn't solve a problem because the gateway, this GFE here or front-end server in Amazon or whatever you want to call it, is the place where everything is going to be naked anyway. So we really, with the idea and the way SSL works, we always are stuck in a problem of something being open. So even if SSL would work exactly as it should be, it's only a pipeline delivering your data to a certain point, which is not necessarily the point where you want to talk. You don't want to talk with the front-end server of the bank. You actually would like to talk with the actual server, but the actual SSL encryption is stripped away on the gateway. So it is not end-to-end even to your server. Even if it would work, it still will deliver your data naked. And this is also in a cloud storage. Even if you have SSL, the cloud storage will receive your data naked. And whether they then use disk encryption, a second layer, to protect the data in rest, it's anybody's guess. And you cannot verify it, but it's always naked in between. The world is changing. Right now, we can crack stuff as a service. This is an actual website with a legitimate business. There's a lot of good uses and a lot of bad uses for this. Fast, cheap, 300 million attempts to crack your password, your network key, your whatnot, in 20 minutes for $17. Anyone who wants to use it can use it. Cloudcracker.com. The funny thing is, if you don't happen to be a good guy, you might actually find a lost credit card or two by cracking things. So the $17 is not exactly expense for a criminal for more than the first crack. After that, you already have access to somebody else's money. So this is telling that you don't need to, as a criminal or as a security researcher, but especially a criminal, you don't need to invest a big farm of powerful computers. You can just buy it for $17 per pop. So this all has been talking about how the protocols, the implementations are in attack, but also the math is. And this is a real problem, and this is when the Snowden comes in. Because we have been believing, strongly believing, that the standards are good, but the implementation might have flaws or misthought things, and it might suck there. But as long as we implement the standard right, we are going to be safe. Not exactly so. Right now, one of the biggest revelations is active manipulation of standards to weaken and insert backdoors into the standard, weaknesses. And this is a real problem, because now anyone who is doing even the best job based on a standard ends up to have vulnerabilities which who knows who can access those. And this is a real thing. Even though it's meant to be a law enforcement or spy agency or whatnot, it can also be your favorite country's mafia or a crime organization who buys or finds the way to access the same door. The door is indiscriminate. Anyone who knows how to use it can use it. Also, because of the factoring, etc., we are coming to the end of the line with a traditional cryptography. ECC, elliptic curve cryptography, seems to be a solution. Again, now we found out that in the standards, there has been a weakenings. Oops, wrong direction. So the real implication, the real impact of Snowden is yet to be understood. We need to be starting to look how we give a choice to businesses, customers, to protect themselves and choose from, instead of using a global, well-known standard, to choose a standard. This is a real problem from the other way around. If any company, if any party says, I have this super secret security thingy, and we are not going to tell you how it works, don't trust them. Cryptography is really, really hard. And because it's really, really hard, what needs to be done, it needs to be peer-reviewed. Scientists have to be openly having a debate. Hackers have to have an access and try them out to find out if it actually works. And it's not shame. World-leading cryptographers have been developing an algorithm for years, and then the first time when they show it up, 2 weeks later, it's found to be broken. There's no shame. It's a very complex thing. But when we are starting to choose our company's super secret is never an answer. The answer is always open protocols, and we have to get more open protocols, more openness, more transparency into security. So never trust anything which comes from a black box, whether it's a CPU, can generate entropy, or whether it's a super secret encryption. It has to be open. So the result and where we need to go is the end-to-end encryption. All things which are dear to us and important to us is encrypted in your possession and only decrypted when it reaches its final destination. Also, encryption is as strong as the key. If you don't control the key, and if the key is weak, you don't have security. So even when for a convenience point of view, it's nice to give somebody else to have the key and use it, it's not a solution. Somebody else can hold the key in a form they cannot use it. It has to be a zero-knowledge system, where no matter what happens, whether it is a law enforcement says, we take your server and we investigate, or whether it is a subpoena saying, Mr. X is all the data, we demand it. It has to be a place where giving the data is worthless, because it's encrypted and there's no access to the key which enables to decrypt the data. Also, never trust a vendor who says, we are not going to do something. Instead, it has to be, we cannot do it. It's impossible for us. And never take their word. Always ask, can you prove it to me? So this is an explanation how the difference goes. In SSL tunnel, you go from your computer to the server. Again, it's going to be naked in a server, and the pipeline is broken. Instead, it has to be that the server itself doesn't contain anything valuable. It contains encrypted data, no usable keys, and the encryption and key creation is done only in the destination where it starts, and in the user where it stops. It never can be touched in between. And this is a study which was done by, top of my head, Princeton a few years ago, where they actually found that even with a hypervisor operating system in the cloud, you can steal the encryption key through the barriers if you happen to be sharing the same computer from the CPU cache. I think I have exhausted my time. I hope you found this entertaining and a little bit informing. Thank you very much.